Hey, welcome back to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Adima Zolcario, product design and AI expert, and the creator of the Online Leaders Program, Unlocking the Power of Generative AI. And today, with fast-paced world, speed of innovation are crucial for success. We're diving into how AI technologies can help you build cutting-edge products at an accelerated pace. Joining us is an AI expert and team leader with wealth of experience in leveraging AI for rapid product development. We'll explore strategies for utilizing AI throughout the product lifecycle, including the power of open source models and best practices for managing AI product lifecycle. Get ready for actionable insights and expert advice. And how you feel?
Hi,
I'm so
happy to
happy
be
that
here.
you're here. So we took us
Yeah,
so long until we got to this point, and now we're here. Ofir
yeah.
Bibi, VP of Research at Lightricks. Lightricks is a very successful company, AI company, and I'm so happy that we got the chance to talk. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And now we can start. You've been working on
So,
algorithms and AI for many years, and now in Lightricks. How do you see the development of AI capabilities change in the last year or two?
well, it's changed a lot, mostly because there is this, like a step function where suddenly all these models that were here before, like generative AI was here before. We've been doing it at Lightricks for a long while. We've had it in our product since 2019. But the models, their size, their capabilities became just so much more in kind of a really a step function. It started with LLMs and language models where suddenly you could train with a lot more data, and suddenly again with the data and the unreasonable effectiveness, as Peter Norvig said, it just became so much better and all these capabilities emerged. And then it came into images, right, with the fusion models and text to image. And now like video seems to be the next place. Of course, we've had audio and other modalities along the way. But if a couple of years ago there were all kinds of problems that were considered solved, as in it's not that you can just take a solution off the shelf, but you can take something that brings you almost all the way there, and you just had to add a little bit, and it was very convenient, very accessible to everyone. There were a lot of problems that were just not, and suddenly a lot of problems, a lot of new problems that used to be hard are pretty easily solvable. And you can get to very, very high quality solutions for many more problems today.
Yeah. So now I'd imagine that maybe some of our listeners or viewers are not aware of Lightricks, which is weird. But tell us like a few words about Lightricks and what you're doing.
All right, so Lightricks, as you said, it's an AI first company. We've been building tools for creativity, editing and creation. We started from photos, but now it's any content. It could be photos, videos, audio, text, a lot of stuff. The company is a little over like almost 12 years old, and our vision is really to bridge the gap between imagination and creation, because a lot of people have these ideas in their heads, and some of them have the technical abilities to actually execute them, some of them don't. We want to make it easier for everyone to be able to be the director of their own creation. And we started a lot from mobile. Now we have products also on web. Our newest product, LTX Studio, which is a story creation platform where you can generate a full length video with a lot of scenes and shots and
Yeah.
characters. So that is also on web. We also work with creators, and we have a platform for brands and to connect with creators. We have a lot of tools for creators, but we also want to allow them to monetize and connect to brands. And that's Lightricks.
Yeah, yeah. First, I have to say that I'm very surprised. It's like 12 years. Like, say, AI first 12 years ago, it's like a vision that most companies don't have, right?
Yeah,
That's first.
yeah. It, it, it really, the founders of the company were PhD students that came out of the labs in the university, and they just wanted to take all these state-of-the-art algorithms that they showcase in conferences and academic conferences and bring it to consumers. So that was the initial idea. And when I joined 9 years ago, I already brought with me deep learning and what is now called AI. So machine learning, deep learning, and AI. We deployed AI to our products very, very early in the game.
Wow. And second, you mentioned the LTX platform, right?
Yeah,
So I saw an ad on your LinkedIn that Ari Fullman created a story based on this platform. And it
yeah,
was amazing just to see someone first who's so talented and so many years within the being like in film and creating great masterpiece doing something that is related to AI. And I guess that most creators, or many of the creators, are a bit reluctant to use it yet. So maybe some of them even use like film, before the digital
analog.
age, maybe, right? So how do you
Yeah.
see that? That do you think that all the creators will move to AI platforms in the future?
Um, in general, yes. Just like you said, sometimes the way something is made is part of the creation, right? If someone decides to buy, I don't know, a cup that was handmade from clay or porcelain or whatever, it's going to be more expensive. It's not necessarily going to look better, but maybe the craft is important to them. But other than these specific cases where, again, like the craft or the tooling is the important thing, like only create only create a movie with a certain type of camera. Why? Because it's a challenge.
Yeah,
That's a challenge in itself. It's a way in itself. If you're looking at, let's call it mainstream, if you're looking at the bulk of people just looking to execute, looking to create a movie, to create a story, I think they would use the best tools possible. And we already see with LTX Studio that things that took days or weeks are an order of magnitude shorter. Like people can create a shot that was missing, and sometimes it's a mix. Like maybe you went out there, you went to the field, right? You took a camera, you took a couple of shots, and then one shot is missing. Are you going to pay for a full production day just to get that one shot, or are you going to generate it with AI? It's
yeah,
most likely even, and it might be even easier because you have a lot of material around it to feed into the process. So that is just one example, but all kinds of things that people doing pre-production and production told us took a week suddenly takes a day. So
wow.
they're not
Yeah.
gonna say I don't use it, but
Yeah,
I
they
can
they
do
will
five
probably
times
choose
more, ten
that.
times more. Yeah,
Yeah, another thing that comes to my mind is about Ari Fullman. That I've like in the last few years I've been talking especially about AI and currently about generative AI when I speak. And one of the examples I always give is the movie The Parliament. Do you know his movie?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like an actress that is getting paid in order to have a digital
Her image.
version
Yeah,
avatar of her when she's young and beautiful, and she's getting old, and the studios want to pay her for this digital avatar. And from now on, they would just use this avatar. It's a great movie. I really love it. So I think that maybe because he has this perspective and he has this vision in his mind, and it was done like I think, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't know exactly, but it's not new. And maybe therefore he was more like, yeah, I should try it out because he was there from the beginning in his mind, right? And
yeah,
and and he's like is there already, and some of the creators would get there afterwards. They are not like the early adapters as he is.
Yeah, that very well could be. But the thing is that eventually you can't resist the new tool. Just like, people suddenly, instead of creating film on very expensive cameras, they took digital cameras that were much cheaper, and they created film. It had a different look, by the way. It's not that it's an equivalent, but the tool is different and cheaper. It had a different look, but some people even liked it better. Some people got used to it. It's part of the process, I
Yeah,
think, part of the creative process. And what's fun and interesting about the AI revolution that we're having here is that it's not limited. Like right now, it is. Right now, there are certain things that we can do and certain things that we can't. But the scope of it is that eventually, like if I want to simulate a specific type of camera, I could. Like if I want that digital feel, like the Blair Witch Project, or if I want
yeah,
that high end just film camera, I can get that as well. So
yeah.
people will eventually have to use it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that at the beginning it would be like 80% manual, and only the ones who are like the missing frames will be done in AI. And as we progress, maybe the whole film would be done only with AI, with no actors, no production, anything.
Yeah. I mean, right now I think it's still difficult to create a full feature film, and I think also in terms of also the people in the process, it's something they're not going to let go of at this point in time. One of our designers created an ad, for a perfume on LTX Studio from start to end. It looks amazing, right? All you have to
Yeah.
say is like when you see the perfume, put a brand on it, say "J'adore," and you got it.
Yeah.
It's
Something in
basically,
French, and then it sounds
yeah.
better. Yeah, but when I think about currently, if I understand correctly, the biggest problem with creating a full film or a full ad is a technical problem with compute, maybe for videos, or the algorithms for videos are not as good as for still images, but it's not a perceived problem in the business aspect or the understanding from the people. It's a technical issue as I see it, right? How do you see it?
Well, it's an issue of it's both technical and business, but it's also of progression. Like I'll split it to two. Right? One thing is the technical part, let's call it, which is costs and time. It affects the user experience as well. We actually sometimes let go of a little bit of quality in order to give a better, like a faster user experience. Because at the end, like when someone works on the film, they want to see results quite instantly. At the end, when they export it, then we can take our time, bring it to the best quality possible, and make it work, as long, of course, as it's consistent um, with the video that the creators saw uh, in, let's say, lower resolution, for instance.
Yeah.
We actually just added a new feature where instead of generating just one result every time, and if you don't like it, maybe you regenerate, then you get four results at one time, and you choose just one of them, and then it kind of upsamples it. So part of it was, in order to do it, is to be able to create these four results very, very, very quickly, and with quality that's good enough for people to understand what it is that they're choosing and seeing.
Yeah.
These things are combined because it's a lot of technical innovation that needs to happen. Like this feature we added, we couldn't add it before because we didn't have a technical solution for it. But it's also that like we could have created before for results. It just would have cost us four times more, and then we'd have to charge four times more, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah. Yeah.
other than the user experience, it does affect the business. If I can provide my service at a cost that is actually reasonable for a creator to pay, because if every click just costs a huge amount, it's not going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, it means that once we have better, faster chips hardware, the cost will go down, and then the results will be much faster and cheaper in that sense. I
Yeah.
guess.
So it'll be faster. Hopefully, it will be cheaper. Sometimes you need to adapt to the new hardware and innovate there in order to actually get it cheaper. New hardware is usually faster, not necessarily cheaper.
Oh, what are some best practices for managing AI product lifecycle, including model training, deployment, monitoring, retraining? So, if somebody says, okay, I'm a product manager, but I want to be an AI product manager, we're going to integrate AI features or we're going to build an AI first company, what do they need to know?
So many things, and I can actually
Don't
no, really.
discourage most of the people.
No, it shouldn't discourage them. Like learning new things is the most fun thing in life, right? So learning something new and not just a new product, but actually, I would say new features of the same. It is still product management, but there are new traits to it and new features to it. I think by the way, like a recommendation here, there is a great course from Google for machine learn. It's called Machine Learning Product Management. I think I can find the link later.
Sure.
But it's really quite comprehensive. And I think the first thing about all of this is to understand the fact that with all the benefits, like with AI suddenly solving all these hard problems and doing what seemed impossible before, come a lot of different traits like randomness and or stochasticity. There's the let's call it the uncertainty of converging right in a project, because a lot of times when you start a project, if you think about a new feature in your product or a whole new product, you set you have kickoff, you say what it is that you want to build, you think about how you're going to build it, and then you have to estimate all kinds of things like what would be the value of it, and also what would be the cost and risk to actually build this product. So risk is something that's usually quite manageable, and I think in AI there's a lot of risk of getting close but not close enough, because sometimes close is a really nice demo, but it's not a product that you can ship out into the world, and close enough is something that you can actually ship out into the world.
Yeah.
And when you work with models that are dependent on data and that you can start to quantify how they work on test sets and all kinds of analysis that you can do, but you can't actually say, okay, this is the rule, like someone with that income, I'll give them that much credit and so on. Instead of, it's a much more complex model, there are uncertainties, and if you have data but you're not sure it's enough data to train, you're not going to know until you actually start training your model.
Yeah.
So the risk is usually higher. The uncertainty of what quality of product you can actually get at this point in time, or like in some frame of time that's a good frame of time to actually ship that product, could be really a question mark. So I think the first thing is to accept that and everything that comes with it. It means to need and check up on things in a way that's not just, okay, we had 100% to do. Did we get to 30% after 30% of the time? It's not that. It's are we on track? Are we diverging or converging? Right? You have to understand that some projects will fail also. It's like you're going to try something and you're not going to make it, and maybe in a year from now it's going to work, but not now. There's a lot of things that come with it. I think that would be my
Yeah.
main message
Yeah.
for AI
And
PMs.
another thing is you're saying about unexpected results from the models. Another controlled parameter is the how fast these models are changing all the time around you, and what are the models that are open for you and what you could use. You could build something upon a specific model, and after a few months it's not relevant anymore, and you know that there is something better in the out there that you should try. And another thing, that most of the procedures right now are done half manually, so you don't have the tools to manage the maybe the cost, manage the security, manage the quality, manage, like, all of these tools are not there yet, and then you have to do lots of work manually in addition to that. Does it make sense to you?
Well, it does, but it's a bit of it depends on how deep you know the field and the vendors as well in the field. I think what you initially said, that's kind of the key point here. Once you have a data-based product, okay, if it's like machine learning, AI, but also if some of the data is the inputs that your product is going to get, right? So if, for instance, everyone's looking for a vacation somewhere, and then that place has, a war, for instance, then patterns are going to shift. And if your product is based on those patterns, it doesn't even matter if it's an AI-based product. If the data change, the patterns change, your product is going to change, and it's not necessarily going to be optimal. So you have to have monitoring on the data, which is a lot of times the term there is data shift, like the actual data itself shifted from one to the other.
Yeah.
The other thing could be, actually, when you do have AI and when you do have machine learning, if you're continuously learning, then your model is changing all the time. And in a lot of scenarios, you have to change the model all the time. So you have to make sure that the answer it gives are as expected, that it still works on something that's important to you, like a test set. There are monitoring companies for machine learning today, like Deep Checks is one, I think, really good example, where they provide tools to monitor it in real time, to do tests ahead of time and during training, during deployment, and they help you. But you have to do the work, right? You have to say, okay, this is the data I need to test on. This is how I can test my model and say, okay, it's good enough, it's secure enough, it's everything that I want it to be, or not. And if you don't have these tests or these procedures, even if some of them are manual, and hopefully some of them, not all of them, are manual, then you're not going to be able to provide a good service, a good product, and B, move fast. Because to move fast, just like you said, the scene is changing all the time. You have a model, tomorrow is going to be a new one. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to shift to the new one, but if you have a fast way to check if kind of shifting, changing the model, plugging and playing the new one actually works better for you, then you can do it. You can do it all the time. You can do it pretty quickly. If you don't, like if it's like a lot of manual tests and you need the machine learning team to come in and spend, I don't know, a week or two on it, then you're not going to be able to move as fast as you actually need to. But I think the one mitigation to all of it is that while a lot of people use APIs and machine learning models just as they are and do prompt engineering mostly, I think that is one thing where a new model might not act the same way with the same prompt, and then you have to kind of do the whole procedure again. But a lot of companies I know, a lot of products, also a lot of things that we do at Lightricks is actually creating custom models of ourselves. Like if we take a model that could be maybe not the best model in some very generic sense, but if we take it and we train it or fine tune it or do all these procedures that can actually happen when you have your own data and your own use cases, then you actually find the optimal model for that use case. And the chances of a generic model appearing out of thin air and being better are very slim. The chances of having a generic model that you, again, do the whole procedure of fine tuning and then getting better results is there, but it's usually not as big as just trying to make a product on top of a generic model.
Yeah. And it's part of the quality of the company, meaning that we're not just using a third party and doing whatever we're doing with our data, and the model is not ours. We're building from third party, or we're building from open source. We're building it from scratch. So we have all these capabilities within the company, and we have our data. Another thing that you mentioned before is the fact that you can't control nor the output or the input. So what people would say or ask from the model, the data that comes into your product, and you're creating something, and therefore it could change all the time. The images that you're creating, the videos, whatever is changing, and you need to monitor both sides all the time.
Yeah. No, it is. It's changing all the time, and especially with trends, right? There's a new movie, and then suddenly everybody wants to create images or videos of that character from that movie, which a lot of times it's not necessarily that the model even knows of that character at that time.
Yeah. I didn't think about it. I don't know if you saw it, but there was this NBA game that they showed live in the look and feel of the new Spider-Man movie. Did you see that with
No, I heard
Wembanyama?
about it though.
Did you see
I
it?
heard about it. No,
It was
didn't see it.
it was amazing. First, I went to all, like, there are two movies of the new Spider-Verse movies, and they're so beautiful. All the animation. Do
Yeah.
you know that? So it's
Yeah.
really, really beautiful movies. So I'm going with my boys, and they're enjoying the movie, and I'm just enjoying the animation. And it's a very beautiful thing. And then they took this like look and feel that I'm sure that it was very hard to create, and I know that they worked for years with vast tens or hundreds of animator artists in order to do that. And then they showed the NBA game the same way, in the same look and feel of the movie. And the thing is that it was live. It was not like recorded and then post-processed. It was live. And I said, okay, this is something I've never seen. I know maybe it was just a demo and it will not work from now on. But what you mentioned is that you need to be aware of these, like, now I want this kind of movie. Now I want this kind of character. Now I want, what are their requests, and they're trending each time.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, again, like giving more control and actually more elaborate inputs to the users is one of the things that's really important for us at Lightricks. It always was. To, like, a lot of people come in and they just want, just a one-click magic kind of experience. That's awesome. But some creators really want to have a lot of degrees of control. So it doesn't matter if it's AI or not. The thing with AI is that it actually becomes more difficult, because a lot of the black boxes that are being built in the AI world are just that, black boxes that you have your input and you get some output. Maybe you're lucky, maybe you're not. You have a random number you can change, maybe you get another result. But if a user actually wants that specific style or that specific character or something very specific, in the camera motion, for instance, is something that we allow users to control in LTX Studio. That's something that we haven't seen anywhere else, and it took a lot of innovation, a lot of effort on our end to actually make that possible. So these controls are what makes, I think, good products, especially in creation, where the user can actually say more explicitly what it is that they want, give their own inputs. Like, again, if a user wants, a creator wants to include their own photos, like someone wants to recreate their dream, and in their dream they have their family and their dog. So I don't have a picture of their dog, so they can actually provide it. They can create something from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that when I think about what I do, I come from design and product. And for me, when you're doing something for, BTC, for example, and it's for someone who's not professional, he would say, okay, I'm not in control. Just give me this filter and it looks fine. And I'm doing something fun. If you're working with professionals and you're working with creative artists, they're very keen on really doing what they want to do. And if you want to satisfy them, they would know exactly, and they imagine exactly what is the result that they want, and they would not reconsider, even again, if it's not what they are looking for. They could say, okay, it's a bit different, but I know what I'm looking for. And if you want to make your users and clients satisfied, you need to understand what they're looking for. And in this gap between something that is done currently by editing and post production, and this is what they're doing, it's lots of work, to doing everything like, yeah, whatever you give me, it looks good for me. There is this very big gap that you want to close by letting them the control of their own, like, artistic work.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, because if not, they're saying, like, I have a kid and he's very artistic, so he loves to paint and everything. And one day I told him, let's go and do something in Mid Journey. I took him to Mid Journey, and it was lots of fun. And we created this chihuahua with like Adidas outfit in pink. And after like an hour, he said, okay, done. And I said, okay, you want to do it tomorrow? And he said, no. It's like, it's not mine. It's really cute, but it's not my capabilities. It's not, I don't have any, I don't own it. It's not mine. And he wouldn't do it anymore. But if I could just imagine that he would have the option to control exactly what he's looking for, he would be more engaged and interested. And maybe, I don't know, if he would like not to use his pencils anymore and use that instead. So this is what comes to my mind when I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some specific tips and techniques that can help product teams build faster and more efficiently?
Okay, so that is one of the subjects I have a lot to say about. And I think especially it changed in the past year or two. One aspect of it is the fact that, like I said, the technology changed, it evolved, and a lot of things are now much more accessible. It's not just that there's this commoditization of AI and models and open source models, and a lot of people that are not necessarily even machine learning researchers or even engineers. A lot of people also, non-technical people, designers that take these tools, ask ChatGPT how to use them, and kind of use them. So there is this commoditization and democratization of all of it. But I think that much like using just prompt engineering on some API or open source LLM, over here as well, like if you want to get like the 80-20 rule, or if you want 80% of the quality, then you can get there now instead of in 20% of the time, and the time used to be like a couple of months at best. You can get there 10% of the time or 5% of the time, and the time is like 2 months, 1 month, very, very, very short. But if you want to get the rest of the 20%, which sometimes for some products is exactly the differentiator between a good product that actually makes it and something that's it's out there, but no one's going to stick around, is knowing, like, having the tools, having the talent to actually work to the next step with those models. And that's kind of I think the opposite. It's a bit of the opposite of the question, but you need to know that it's not going to be super fast. Like, don't assume that everything is going to take a day or a week. It is going to take about a month to do something worthwhile, and there will be a lot of improvements to do still. But you can do something in a month that used to take you 6 or 12 months, which is amazing. So that is like one thing. Recognize the pace has changed, but it's not, 2 orders of magnitude. It's just one.
Yeah.
And the second thing, which I think used to kind of be there, open source and the open source community always was around, and there are a ton of amazing open source projects all around. And as academia and in general, like publications became more and more dependent on being published alongside working code. It's kind of like if you published a paper and you didn't have working code, then suddenly maybe you're just cherry picking or maybe even fudging it a little bit. So now everybody's kind of putting code out there. And with the excitement that people are feeling, I think more and more people are starting to feel that these things are actually relevant for them, for their lives. So more and more people take part, more and more people join communities that do things and work and elevate what you actually can do with open source. So I think if for any company, and especially a software company like Lightricks, if you had to be observant and see where you can actually integrate open source and where you can actually use it, maybe even give back sometimes, now it became essential. Like for us in AI, seeing the open source AI community, seeing what they do with which model, like I said, there's a new model every day. And if I had to spend my team's time and actually evaluating them, it would take quite a long time and a lot of resources. But there's a lot of people out there actually doing these evaluations. But if you don't trust these evaluations, then you can join in and change them and put them out there. Maybe someone else also will look at them and get the same advantage you get, but you're going to get it, and you're going to get it for free, the next time and the next time and the next model, because you built these evaluations, for instance. Creative tools and workflows that people are building. If you find a way to easily and cheaply integrate them into your own products, into your own work, that actually, I think, is the main differentiator between someone who can move quickly nowadays and someone who is still stuck in kind of building everything themselves. I think like at Lightricks, we found a very good balance between building our own things. Some of them are, both in engineering and in AI and machine learning. Some of them are being open source. Some of them are internal. Some of them come from open source and being adapted to our needs. A lot of tooling from open source is being integrated in the entire, I call it the supply chain of features, right? We have a product, we have a lot of features we want to deliver. We have to look at it as a supply chain. Like if I can speed up that supply chain with information and knowledge coming in and tooling coming in from the open source community, that's really my advantage. So that's what we did at Lightricks and integrated a lot.
So you mentioned different type of models, and I want to ask you, what are the key consideration when choosing between building your own AI models versus using pre-trained models or APIs? How do you decide which one is best for you?
Right. So APIs, I think, are a great place to start, but because it's fast, it's cheap, it's usually, not always, but usually quite stable. But unless that is kind of your business model, it does not make sense for quite a lot of companies, Lightricks, I think, included, because eventually it's either that the costs are greater because the API provider needs to take their cut somewhere, or that the API is too limited. Like if you need to change something there, it's not necessarily available to you. Which is why a lot of times APIs get kind of integrated into, I mean, not to mention privacy and data governance and stuff like that, but APIs kind of start to get into products, and sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't. If they don't, it's usually because we find better alternatives in our own models or open source models. Basically, if someone provides an open source model that I can take as is or fine tune, that would be the best scenario for me always, because again, like, I know what my use cases are and I have my own data. So fine tuning models for my needs is something I can do. I can do it cheaply and I can do it very efficiently. Sometimes we have to build our own models from scratch, as we are doing right now as well, for our biggest generative model for video, for instance. These are things that you have to do when either you don't see them coming from open source, or when there's really some gap between what it is that you can get and what it is that you want to be able to achieve. And when there's, for instance, a quality gap or a controllability gap where you can add all types of controls, then it's kind of a good reason to build something of your own. Once you do that, or once you bring in models from open source, you also have to have a good engineering solution for serving those models. For some companies, it could be just using third-party services or cloud services like Vertex AI or SageMaker. For Lightricks, we built our own platform where researchers can build the functionality, the AI functionality, and then just kind of drop it somewhere and it's being served for them on a backend platform. So that was also an advantage in moving quickly.
Yeah, I understand. But is it considered in the life cycle of a feature? So at the beginning, you would try an API because it's so fast, and you see if like people are interested, if it's going to the right direction. Then you would say, okay, I'm trying to find an open source. It will be the best thing. And then if you have a gap in what you really want to achieve, then you would go into building it on your own. This is how you would check it.
Yeah, because any process that can be iterative is better that way, basically. And for me, like, if it's an API or an open source model, it doesn't matter. I'll try them both. Nowadays, because I do have the capability to serve any model that I want. But I'll find the best possible solution that I can give kind of off the shelf, right, without actually investing any more time other than checking the quality and fine-tuning it, like fine-tuning how I work with it just a little bit, maybe parameters or the prompt or whatever it is that I give as input. And once that's out there and I can actually ship it and release, maybe a new feature or improve a feature, then I can go and assess, do I want to improve it? Do I want to spend the time and actually better the model or the whole feature? And if the answer is yes, then we go that way. And it takes obviously more time than just taking something and serving it or calling an API. Yeah.
Would you say that all of the people in your company, engineers, designer, marketing, sales, they understand AI much better than a company that doesn't do an AI product? Or it's just the research R&D people doing what they need to do?
No. I think first of all, as an AI first company, it's not just in our product; it's also internally. We started talking about the legal aspects of using AI tools like ChatGPT and now there are many others, right? But we started talking about, can we actually have everyone use it? Can we all these benefits that we're supposed to get from it, we can only see that we get them if we tell people to actually use it. So even just making sure, kind of paving the way to do it, we were told that we were really one of the first companies kind of approaching and that issue and asking questions about it. But the question phase ended really quickly, and we started using these tools. It was really pushed to everyone into their mindset to be able to remember that these tools are there, that they should use them, that they can use them for more than they think, that they can find new ways. Training seminars, workshops, everything from understanding the terminology to properly using these tools. And there's already this joke where Zev, our CEO, in every monthly updates, kind of counts how many times he says AI, right? So it's
Yeah.
really mentioned everywhere, and not just because it's in our product. Maybe mainly because it's in our product, but also because it's in our culture by now.
Yeah. And not only in the last 2 years, in general.
Yeah.
I think that most companies would say this word a lot, but only in the last like year or two. And you're one of the companies who's been doing that for so many years, which is exceptional in that sense. What advice would you give to product leaders who are looking to leverage AI for faster and more efficient product building?
Um, so I would say, first of all, like I said, always look um, in a broader scope, look outside, look to the open source community, to smaller communities that maybe do things that are similar to what it is that you're trying to do, to not necessarily find a solution that's the right thing for you, but you can get, like, instead of being at this starting point where everything is kind of foggy and you don't know where you're going, you get a lot of clues, a lot of hints into what works, what doesn't, what people are also interested in sometimes, depending on the size of the community. And that really gives you a leg up, a starting point that's so much better than being in the dark completely.
Yeah.
Once you do look outside, you need to remember not to be blinded, right? There's so
Yeah.
much information and so much
Right.
going on. You need to remember, like, it's going to keep just accelerating. You have to take it in, you have to breathe in, find your focus, look at the biggest stuff happening, then maybe drill down a little. If you drill down, to today, tomorrow is going to be something new. It doesn't mean that you have to know it. It means that depending on your, the stage in your life cycle, if you're at the beginning and planning and executing, like, be focused on executing and getting all the way to a working product, because that could be, like I said, hard in itself with AI and stochasticity and everything kind of being riskier. Once you do have something working, then you should probably keep up with the newest, like the latest and greatest, and be able to integrate it as quickly as possible into your own products. Because again, if also for us, like, if we used to be able to build something and know that we'll have like a year of technological advantage over everyone else, now if we build something, we don't assume more than a month, right?
Month?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really, really hard in terms of how fast-paced everything is, and how much is
Right.
being released and shared.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So we're almost done. There is like my last question I usually ask all my guests. Your number one tip for AI entrepreneurs today.
Remember, it's a product. Like, AI or no AI, it really, really doesn't matter in terms of what it is that you're trying to do. Where it does matter when you actually use AI is the fact that the capabilities are very, very wide, and it might be hard to actually focus on a single use case, but you probably should. And the only thing to look for is kind of let's call it the protection from not just anyone else, but the specific use case that you're looking at becoming kind of a generic use case for that tool. Because, like, again, if all you do is just one prompt, then it's probably going to become pretty generic and everyone's going to know, and someone might wrap it pretty easily. Maybe that someone will be the provider of the API you're using, right? So there is an advantage, like a competitive advantage to keep. It's mostly in how you build, in what you build, in the product. It's not necessarily about having this, the best model ever, because, like I said, a better model will show up eventually, and that eventually is in a month or so.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really about finding focus and seeing that it makes sense, that you have some added value there, and not just using a model.
Yeah.
That's
So you're saying that the challenge itself is a product challenge, finding the right fit, creating the right product, creating the
it
right
is.
solution as fast as possible to your end customers, doing what they
It
need.
is.
And you're doing it with AI, but it's only the technology, the way to get there.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's just right. I'm the VP research,
Yeah.
but it's the technology. It's enabling now many more products that were just not a possibility before. But still, you have to think about it from the product angle. You have to think about not just giving some, tiny functionality, but actually creating value and helping people with their workflows, with what it is that they're trying to do. If you do that, then you actually have a product that was enabled by AI, but
Yeah.
still a product.
Yeah. Thank you, Ofir. It's been a pleasure having you here. Lots of like insights and understanding of things that I didn't know before. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sure thing.
Where could people hear more about Lightricks and what you do and contact you?
Okay, so Lightricks is, it's out there. Our app's in the app stores, Apple and Google. LTX Studio is on ltx.studio, and you can join our Discord as well. But really, if you want to catch me up, I'm available. You can email me at Ofir, O-F-I-R, at lightricks.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm there, Ofir Bibi. Or, if you get to academic conferences and stuff like that, I might be around.
Wow. And you have this catchy name, like Ofir Bibi. Nobody could get like, you got the domain.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ofir, for being here. And it's been really
Sure.
a pleasure. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. I invite you to sign up to a new online leaders program, Unlocking the Power of Generative AI, designed to equip leaders with the skills and in order to build successful generative AI products. And I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya.